All right, people. I'm about to do you a big favor here. Next time somebody approaches you at the mall or at Walmart or Costco and they say, hey, excuse me, but you look like somebody with undiagnosed mental health issues, personality disorders, possible autism, and trauma response. And you say, oh, I am. How did you know? And why do you ask? They say, well, because I was wondering if you could recommend some good metal songs to me. You seemed like the type of person with the list of characteristics that I just named, which means that you must be a metal fan. And he would say, that is correct. And they said, well, I've been meaning to get into deathcore for a while. Where should I start? Well, today I will give you a Deathcore Starter Kit so that next time that happens to you, next time a stranger correctly diagnoses you as having a long list of personality disorders, you will be able to say, I'm glad you asked. If you're looking to get into deathcore, here it is. You know, I can't name every band, but in more or less chronological order, these are the bands that I would suggest you start with. And if you like this, you know, go from there, look up the Spotify artists like blah, 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 similar to that. But if you wanted to get started, if you're wondering what the hype is all about, here it is. And really quickly, I also wanted to mention my Patreon. If you like what I do on YouTube and everywhere else, joining my Patreon really helps me do this full time and worry less about videos getting demonetized by YouTube or copyright claimed by labels. Patrons get all my podcasts and main channel videos early. There are members only channels in my Discord that I'm super active in. I also do giveaways. For example, I've been giving away a lot of Emo's Not Dead merch, and you can also have me review your music, artwork, or anything else. All you need to do is join my Patreon at the $10 level, and then every month I do a call for submissions. If you want me to review something, just drop it in the comments of that post, and then I will review it live on Twitch. So if any of that sounds cool to you, hit the link in the description of this video, and I appreciate your support. And I will start with some sort of pre-deathcore bands. And just for a little bit of history, starting back in like the 90s, I would say, hardcore and death metal. And so to back up, to me, deathcore from the name is like death metal plus hardcore. That's sort of the basis of it to me. It's like death metal riffing and vocals, but with breakdowns and stuff like that from hardcore. That was a very new idea back in the 90s because back then, death metal and hardcore really did not intersect at all. There was like a very, very, very small number of us in the hardcore scene that even knew anything about real death metal. But that is when the seeds started to become laid. And I would say one of the very first examples of a band that did deathcore that kind of sounded like modern deathcore is this band Embodiment. They're a Christian metal band from Texas. I think they're from Dallas. And this is on Solid State back from like 98 or 99. And man, I gotta say, this shit still holds up. This sounds amazing, even by today's standards. I think if this came out like now, completely like with this mix, this production and everything, I think people would lose their shit over this. It sounds like nothing else I've heard before or since. Nasty riffs, tons of groove, very crunchy. And remember, this is from like 98, super ahead of its time. Kind of sounds like Animosity, right? It's true, the first step of the starter kit should be to try to talk them out of listening to metal. That is true. I think people would still love this if it came out now. The cover art is so 90s too. The drums actually sound like real drums. Very, very tight playing, yes. This record is awesome. The stuff after this is not as good. They kind of went more like butt rock, but this album's awesome. Got our little deathcore breakdown part here. Very ahead of its time. So if you like the sound of that, check out this album. It's great. Another band from this era that was very, very, very ahead of its time. Heavy as shit. I would say the heaviest band of this era was 18 Visions. And you guys might know 18 Visions for when they were wearing like pink ties and eyeliner and all that stuff. The inventors of scene hair. It's true. It's true. Without a question, the band that invented scene hair way back in the late 90s was 18 Visions. It's a fact. No question. But before all that stuff that people know them for, like Tower of Snakes and all that kind of stuff, they were heavy as fuck. This is from like 98, I think. Heavy as fucking shit. Check this out. This is from their very first album, which I don't think this is on Spotify. I'm not sure. It's called Yesterday as Time Killed. Insanely heavy shit. Just ridiculously heavy. Gotta have some stank face for this. When Brandon from Bleeding Through was in this band and wore a Danzig shirt to every single show. Every time I saw them back then, he wore the same Danzig shirt. He was on guitar, always wearing his Danzig shirt. I actually like their later stuff too, but this shit is just so heavy. And the term deathcore didn't exist at the time, but to me, this is deathcore. This is like deathcore plus hardcore. You know, it totally sounds current. Absolutely. Heavy as shit. This could come out today, and all the people who are into like Jesus Peace and shit would love this stuff. Anyway, you get the idea. So that is the very first song on the very first 18 Visions album. I think it's awesome. The very foundations of deathcore. Another band to check out is Undying. They're from North Carolina, I think, right? This is Tommy and Paul, I think, from Between the Buried and Me, were both in this band. This is like 99, I think. And again, back then in the hardcore scene, it was very rare to find people in hardcore that like knew anything about like real metal. You know, back then, and like me and Mike Seatown, who you might know from YouTube, we were like some of the only people that were listening to like really foul shit, like you know, incantation and shit like that in hardcore. Now everyone likes that shit, but back then, unheard of. But Paul and Tommy from Between the Buried and Me and Undying were also super early to sort of that combination of hardcore and death metal. And this is their band. I think this is from 99. Pretty raw. But like doing this in 99 was wild. This is like really, really, really ahead of its time. Like with modern production, I think people would still like this. Obviously it just sounds not the best because it's a hardcore band from 99. Did hardcore kids not like this stuff? I mean, I doubt this band ever played to more than like 100 people, you know? Yeah, and Prayer for Cleansing. They were just very, very, very small bands. Love that snare sound. I could just listen to that snare all day long. So you get the idea. Again, the very, very, very beginnings of deathcore, way back in the late 90s. Now, those to me were not really deathcore. They were like hardcore bands kind of experimenting with death metal. I would say the first bands to kind of really be deathcore in kind of its own thing that wasn't part of the hardcore scene. Three bands that I would maybe point to. One would be As Blood Runs Black. Who I think, were they from San Diego? I forget. Kind of doing more like melodic death metal influence stuff. Gotta love his Diesel shirt here. This is when hardcore kids started wearing bootcut jeans and Diesel shirts. Gotta love that. Yeah, the very beginnings of like MySpace deathcore. And in hindsight, damn good band. Shout out to the Sideburns on the bassist. Also, what happened to Zillbells? Come on. Remember when every local band had a drummer who looked like this? Some dopey little kid with like moppy hair and a Zillbell? Come on. Are you even a local band if you don't have a Zillbell? I wonder where they filmed this. This looks like a church youth lounge. I think this shit holds up, and man, look at this fit. I paused this just at the right time. He's got his Old Navy boxers, his bootcut girl jeans, because remember back then, you couldn't get like tight pants for guys. It was really hard to get like tight bootcut jeans for guys, so you would have to buy like larger girl jeans. His faux hawk, his Diesel shirt, Old Navy boxers, and bootcut girl jeans. Fellas, what's stopping you from looking like this? That's all I want to know. Another band which unfortunately has been kind of ruined for me because their fans are just absolute punishers. I don't know why. Despised Icon fans these days, just unbearable. They stand this band so hard, which I find very interesting because Despised Icon is a great band and always was, but people fucking hated this band back then. Hated them. Just despised this band, ironically. Speaking of fits, look at this. Look at these fits, people. This is the real reason deathcore was great. Here we go. Look at this. We got Paul Wall #1 and Paul Wall #2 with his Nike SB polo, and this other guy with a printed like Argyle polo. fitted hat at a jaunty angle. Men will never look this good again. They are arguably one of the first deathcore bands, it's true. I fucking hate how much people stand them now. Oh, look, just everything in this frame. Everything right here. His D's Nuts shirt. I mean, just everything about this, absolutely iconic. Deathcore will never, ever regain its former greatness unless we bring this look back. People, bring it back. It's time. I will say, this band is very catchy. I wish the drums weren't so fake. That kind of bothers me a bit. Morgoth, you remember how much people hated this band back in the day, right? You remember this? Metal people fucking hated this band. It is funny to see how few tattoos there are. Look at these OnlyFans girls at the funeral. Shout out to the boys in Despised Icon for bringing the big titty goth girls to the funeral. Say, you know, I'm kind of sad that my mom died, but on the brighter side, somebody brought some thoughts to the funeral. If you ever wondered what Andrew Tate was doing back in 2009, now you know. Andrew Tate, original singer of Despised Icon. Anyway, a very good band. It's a shame that they got so much hate back in the day because they were actually great. And yeah, if you haven't checked them out, you should. I would say maybe my favorite of these bands from this era is Animosity. Were they from San Jose? I think they're from San Jose. Somewhere around the Bay Area. Probably my favorite of these bands. By the way, is this man sleeping in a fucking do-rag? Oh my god, he is. This is why deathcore sucks now. No do-rags, no polos, no hats at a jaunty angle. This is what we need to bring back, people. This is what's been missing for the genre. I liked Animosity because they were a little bit more like hardcore influence. Look at, oh fuck, look at that. Look at that. All I ever wanted was to be this guy answering a call on his flip phone from a dude in a do-rag. These fits are indeed out of control. Iconic. Man, these guys were so young, too. I think they were like 16 or 17 or something. This shit is so good. And I love the party videos. Like, I'm sorry, people, but modern deathcore fucking sucks compared to this. This has so much energy. Like, the video looks fun. It's like dudes moshing at a house party. The guy's got a Zill bell. You see, people, he's got a splash and a Zill bell on his drum kit. Just everything about this is fucking awesome. The new deathcore fucking sucks compared to this. I'm sorry, this is so much better. This actually feels like real music, not just fucking over-edited riff salad. This shit is so good. It's true. I feel like it's also become a contest of vocal techniques. I think it's true. You know, the modern like vocal deathcore gymnastic stuff, I respect it, but it doesn't make it good music. You know what I mean? Like these bands actually had songs. Anyway, great band. I think they have what, 3 albums, I think, and they're all great. Very big fan of Animosity. Great band. That brings us to what I would consider the golden years of deathcore, the MySpace years. And of course, I guess there's like, you know, I think of it as like the big, 5 or 6 bands of the genre. Of course, the greatest deathcore band of all time is Suicide Silence, The End. If you disagree with this take, you're a clown and you're wrong. This is the best deathcore album of all time. There is no discussion. This is the greatest deathcore album ever made, the definitive album in the genre. The End. Just everything about this is perfect. The production, the mix, the performances, like, I mean, God, this is so nasty. So nasty. Nobody will ever beat this. It's fucking legendary. It sounds so filthy, you know? Just listen to how filthy and nasty this is compared to all this, like, sterile, overproduced shit now. That's the difference. Is like, this early deathcore actually sounded raw and full of energy because it wasn't edited to death and they weren't trying to be perfect. This is the best. Nobody will ever top this. Gotta love Suicide Silence. 10 out of 10 album, 10 out of 10 band, just absolutely iconic. And again, very, very, very hated. Oh yes, all the metal people hated this shit at the time. They called Suicide Silence Scenecide Silence because, oh, God forbid girls liked Suicide Silence. I remember they would get very upset because scene girls like Suicide Silence. Oh my God. Cute girls showed up to a show? No, this is not okay. Oh no. Why would you want hot girls at a show? Someone get those girls out of here. No. They must be stopped. But also another great band of the era who obviously is still around. Gotta talk about Whitechapel. I think their first album is really good, but in my opinion, personally, I think the best thing that they did, this is from their EP, I think, right? Or maybe it's their demo, I forget. This is my favorite Whitechapel stuff. Very, very, very like nasty, raw stuff again, but so tight. A little bit more on the death metal side of things. As opposed to Suicide Silence, who were drawing from a lot of hardcore influences, Whitechapel was a bit more on the death metal side of things. God, this shit goes so hard. I love this shit. Oh, this is the first album, that's right, yeah. And they remixed this, but the remix is not as good. It sounds so raw and nasty. I love this shit. I think Suicide Silence is better also, but I do think this like early Whitechapel stuff is awesome, and I do think they're an awesome band. I personally like Suicide Silence better because they have a little bit more of like a punk influence, but Whitechapel, great band. Definitely check out their old stuff if you haven't. Carnifex also has to be mentioned. I always thought of Carnifex as kind of the second tier below like Suicide Silence and Whitechapel and stuff, but they were good. Especially this old stuff. The video didn't age too well. You know, the whole torturing a girl tied up in a chair thing, that didn't age too well. But I do think Carnifex is, you know, they're a good band. Got to mention them as a conversation if you like old school MySpace deathcore. But if Morgoth is still in the chat, Morgoth Beats in the new version of Winds of Plague, one of the most advanced videos in the history of deathcore, and a great band that you gotta give a shout out to is Winds of Plague, who I think are very, very underrated. I've been singing the praises of Winds of Plague for a very long time, and this song is fucking awesome. Love this whole album, but especially this song, so catchy. And as far as like all the symphonic deathcore shit that is super trendy now, Winds of Plague, they're the band that put this style on the map. No question. The whole like symphonic deathcore thing, they were the ones who did it. Dimmu Borgir with breakdowns, basically. But it's great, super catchy. Yeah, Abigail Williams might have done it first, but they were never really popular. Winds of Plague is the one who put her on the map, for sure. It does look like a local rap video. That's why it's great. I remember when I saw this, I was like, what in the fuck is this? I didn't know who they were when this came out. Like, they look like a hardcore band, but it sounds like Dimmu Borgir. He's wearing a behemoth long sleeve, and this is like a rat video with somebody's Jaguar in it. Like, what in the fuck is this? I had no clue what this was, but it's great. This breakdown, so sick. And this whole album is tuned to standard E, very rare. Too advanced for its own good, it's true. We didn't know what we had. Look at this jaunty hat. Again, if you want to make deathcore great again, people, here's all you need to do. Take your hat, turn it about 30 degrees, and there you go. That's the key. Deathcore will never be great again without flat brim hats at a 30 to 45 degree angle. I don't make the rules, people. It's just how it is. Definitely give Winds of Plague a shot if you haven't. And of course, Chelsea Grin, still around, but their old stuff, super catchy. Video, not cool. Way too much weird, misogynist torture porn back in the day. This is so catchy. I wouldn't put this on the same tiers like Suicide Silence or Whitechapel. You know, to me, Chelsea Grin is up there with Carnifex. Pretty good, but not truly elite, I would say. But definitely worth checking out if you haven't. If you like the old school MySpace deathcore, early Chelsea Grin, definitely good. Yeah, smoke on the water for deathcore kids. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Now, I want to talk about a few forgotten gems. Of course, my personal favorite, if any of you guys have been following me for a while, I have been talking about Demolisher for a good solid 15 years. To this day, I think this is one of the hardest EPs ever recorded. This is the Demolisher World of Hatred EP from 2009, I think. Still hard as shit. This band has never gotten the respect they deserve, probably because they broke up, like, I don't know, a year after this or something, but 10 out of 10 EP. God, this shit is so hard. So ignorant. And they were like high school kids. And the fits. Yes, again, look at the fits, people. Again, if you want to make deathcore great again, you see the first thing here. What's the first thing that you notice about his hat? 30 to 45 degree angle. That's the key, people. That's the key. You take all these fancy schmancy new school deathcore bands, turn their hat at a 30-degree angle, they're going to get twice as good. And the gold foil Abacab shirt. We'll listen to Abacab in a minute. With the relaxed fit jeans, and this looks like some old like Nike Dunks or something. This is the key. I've talked about this band as well, but another very obscure old school deathcore band from back then, which another one of these Chicago bands. I think they had some of the same members as Demolisher, I think. But again, look at this. First of all, they're fucking children. This kid looks like he's in like 6th grade. And look at the hat. First thing you see, hat at a jaunty angle. That's how you know. That's how you know the band is good. This is Eat the Gun by Jerome, which, in my opinion, one of the single best old school MySpace deathcore songs. A real forgotten gem. Shit's so catchy. I'm putting you guys onto some obscure gems here, people. Pay attention. I mean, can you imagine these sounds coming from literal children? These guys look like they weigh about 130 pounds. Imagine them making these sounds. So good. Another band to mention is Monsters, which I'm pretty sure is also some of the same members as Demolisher and Jerome. All these like Chicago guys. This EP, I don't know if this ever even came out in physical form, whatever, but I found this on MySpace back in the day. I still listen to it. It's great.
Holy shit!
You better believe there's flat brim hats at a jaunty angle here. We need the 2008 bounce to come back. It's true. This is from like 2010, I think. There's just so much good shit. I mean, I could go on forever about some of these like old school gems. I'll leave you with one more. I fucking love this album. This is one of the heaviest fucking things I've ever heard in my life. This band's from Virginia, I think. Abacab. So good. Fuck, I love this shit. I gotta say, now I've been playing a lot of old school stuff. I would say that this is the sort of transition between old school and new school deathcore. Right here, around like 2012 or something like that, is the transition to me. And I would say Traitors and Barrier and like, was it Black Breath or Black Tongue? I always forget which. This is where it starts to sound more modern. And so there's kind of this trend. This is from what, 2016? You know, 2012 to 2016 to me, like, yeah, Black Tongue. That's right. Black Tongue, Sworn In, Traitors, this like, you know, like what they called down-tempo stuff, to me was sort of the beginning of like what I would say was like new school deathcore, when the trend at the time was just like really, really, really slow, brutal shit. And you hear how much more modern this sounds, right? Like this generation of stuff, probably starting with Sworn In is probably the band that I would say really popularized this. But, you know, this doesn't sound that different from like Angel Maker and stuff like that. But to me, this is where it starts to be less interesting. You know, like the energy is gone to me. It doesn't feel as like pissed off. I don't know. It's just, it doesn't do it for me in the same way. But hey, if you like it, I would say this is really, you know, 2012 to 2015 to me is the sort of dividing line between new and old school deathcore, in my opinion. Which brings us to the new era. And of course, we have to talk about Lorna Shore, which I would consider to be the Suicide Silence of the current generation. So if Suicide Silence is the definitive band of old school deathcore, which they are, period, the end, no question about that, Lorna Shore is the definitive band of the new school era of deathcore. And as probably most of us know, this song, To the Hellfire, I think is the song that really brought the genre back to life, because for a long time, I feel like deathcore from, say, 2012 up until this point, it just became kind of very like Reddit nerd beard kind of material. Like the only people that were into deathcore for a long time were, just kind of nerds, to put it bluntly. And Lorna Shore with Will, and they'd been a band for like 10 years when this came out, but Lorna Shore with Will Ramos on vocals is what brought people back into the genre that weren't like turbo nerds. Especially the end here. This got big on TikTok, and this, again, as we all know, is the moment that brought deathcore back. No question. Hundreds of millions of views on TikTok. Has that same kind of like raw nastiness that old school deathcore did. The dinosaur noises. The snorting. No question about it. Lorna Shore is the band that defines the current era of deathcore, and for good reason. They are great. Really, really, really good band. Will is super charismatic, great frontman. They deserve all their success. And that's sort of the beginning of like the new revival, I would say. Another band that has to be mentioned is Slaughter to Prevail, which is sort of half from Russia, half, I don't know, one of the guys is Jack, lives in the UK. So international band. They're more of like a kind of the new version of Slipknot almost. Very nu metal influenced. Very good vocals. Oh, they all live in Florida now, that's right. For me, they're a little bit too nu metal, a little bit too kind of like, I don't know. It's a little bit too clean and too nu metal for me personally, but I do think objectively they're great. Alex Terrible, the singer, is an awesome frontman, no question about it. He has great stage presence, super charismatic. Their songs are really catchy. I totally get why people are into it. I think they're a fantastic band, and they deserve their success. One thing that I'm excited by is that there's sort of a return, like a revival of like old school deathcore, because I think there's other people that feel the same way as I do that are kind of like, I'm kind of tired of the overproduced, sterile stuff, kind of ready for deathcore to be nasty again. There are some bands bringing that back. For example, my personal favorite, Tracheotomy. I don't know where this band is from, but this band like very much bringing back like an old school Suicide Silence kind of sound. And I mean, it even looks like this is from 2005, right? What a cool video. This is what made me like deathcore back in the day. Just felt nasty and filthy, like little kids just like playing these ungodly heavy riffs. Tactosa's good too. I like this band a little bit better, but Tactosa's also excellent. This part's good. Like a solo that actually sounds cool and musical. Looks like an indie YouTube analog horror series, totally. So there we have it. We've kind of gone full circle. We went from sort of hardcore to nasty, like grimy MySpace deathcore to the newer school, kind of clean, more sterile stuff. And now people are bringing back that like nasty old school kind of style. And there it is, people. Next time someone approaches you and says, hey, you look like a person with personality issues and probably bad social skills. You probably like metal. What is deathcore and how do I get into it? Now you can just say, I've got just the video for you. You can send them this, and you will have converted someone else into a deathcore fan. So there it is, people. The Deathcore Starter Kit. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, no. Why would you want hot girls at a show?